a homeless girl discovered an expensive watch that belonged to a millionaire. Grateful, he offered a reward, but her choice moved him to tears. The intense heat from the blazing sun poured onto the bustling main street. Amid the bustling crowd, a young girl named Amy, barely 10 years old, moved quietly. Her hazel eyes were watchful, her hair a tangled mess, and her worn-out dress and bare feet told the story of a difficult life on the streets. She kept her gaze low, searching for anything that might help fill her empty stomach. Then, something shiny caught her eye. A gold watch, covered in diamonds, lay abandoned in the middle of the sidewalk. With a mix of awe and hesitation, Amy picked up the watch, marveling at its beauty. Someone must be looking for this, she thought. I'm starving, and this watch looks valuable, but I can't just keep it. A quiet resolve settled in her heart. All I have is my honesty, and I won't lose that. I'll find who this belongs to and give it back. Just as she pondered how to locate the owner, a voice broke through the air, sharp and accusing. "Thief! That girl stole my watch!" yelled a young man dressed in an expensive suit. Later, Amy would come to know him as Jason. His piercing blue eyes glared at her with rage, and his finger pointed right at her. Amy froze, holding the watch close to her chest in fear. "No, sir, please. I found it lying on the ground," she stammered. "I was trying to find who it belonged to. Is it yours? I'll return it. I'd never keep something that isn't mine." She extended the watch toward him, her voice barely audible amidst the crowd's murmurs. But Jason's anger only seemed to grow. "Liar! I know your type. Just look at those dirty clothes and that face." His voice dripped with disdain. "Clearly, you were going to steal what doesn't belong to you. You'll pay for this. I'm calling the police." Fear gripped Amy. Her mind was filled with terrifying thoughts of being locked away. Without thinking, she turned and bolted, clutching the watch. Her bare feet hit the hot pavement as she darted through the crowded street. Momentarily stunned, Jason then shouted, "Stop that girl! Get her now! She's a thief! She's stealing my dad's watch!" he yelled, launching into pursuit. Amy could hear his footsteps pounding closer, inching toward her. She considered tossing the watch aside, but feared being blamed if it broke. "Please, God, don't let him catch me," she whispered, tears streaking down her dirt-smeared face. Amy zigzagged through the parked cars and dashed into narrow alleyways, her heart hammering like it would break free. Determined to reclaim the watch, Jason pushed on without stopping. Pulling out his phone mid-run, he dialed, breathless, "Police! A thief's escaping on Main Avenue. A homeless girl took a valuable watch." The mention of police sent a jolt through Amy. Her pulse spiked, and she whipped around a sharp corner, barely keeping her balance. "I can't go to jail. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to return it. Why is he doing this to me?" Her thoughts raced as she scanned for an escape. In the distance, sirens blared, their sounds crawling closer. Panic clawed at her, but she forced herself forward. As she rounded another corner, she noticed a slim gap between two buildings. Without hesitation, Amy squeezed through, her clothes snagging on the rough brick. Too large to follow, Jason skidded to a stop at the alley's entrance. "You can't hide forever, you little thief," he bellowed, his voice bouncing off the walls. Amy crouched in the shadows, clutching the watch tightly, silent tears streaming down as she fought to quiet her gasping breaths. The sirens blared louder, bouncing off the narrow walls. Her heart pounded, so loud she feared Jason might hear it. Suddenly, a firm grip seized her arm, pulling her into the open. A police officer stood before her, his voice steady. "We found you, young lady. Let's head to the station and get this story straightened out." Amy, unable to hold back, surrendered to the situation as tears streamed down her face. "Please, sir, "I didn't steal it. I swear I found the watch," she choked out, barely able to make her voice heard. The officer sighed, gently guiding her toward the waiting patrol car. At the station, Amy curled up in an oversized chair, watching as Jason gestured wildly, giving his statement with noticeable anger. The chief, a man in his 50s with tired eyes, listened closely, occasionally glancing at Amy with curiosity. "So, you're saying this girl stole your father's watch?" the chief asked, his voice calm, contrasting sharply with Jason's agitation. "Exactly. I saw her take it and run," Jason replied, his face flushed with fury. "She's just a street thief. Plain and simple," he declared, his tone harsh. Amy's instinct was to scream, to insist it was a lie, but fear kept her silent. "Why won't anyone believe me?" she thought, feeling the loneliness pressing in. The chief scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Well, since this watch belongs to your father, Mr. Jason, we'll need him to come down to confirm the story and possibly file a report." He picked up the phone. Jason seemed momentarily thrown off, but nodded stiffly. Amy watched with a glimmer of hope. Maybe his father will be more reasonable, she thought, clinging to this fragile optimism. The chief turned to Amy, his expression softening a bit. "All right, young lady. I'll need to hear your version of the story," he said, pulling up a chair to sit across from her. Minutes passed slowly as Amy, her voice shaking, recounted her side. The chief listened attentively, occasionally asking questions, his face a careful mask of professionalism. Meanwhile, Jason paced, visibly impatient, until the station door opened. A tall, well-dressed man entered. It was Mr. Aaron, Jason's father. He scanned the room, taking in Jason, then the chief, and finally, Amy. His face shifted from confusion to an expression Amy couldn't quite read. "Father, this is the girl who stole your watch," Jason announced, pointing accusingly at Amy. Mr. Aaron raised a hand, signaling his son to calm down. "Take it easy, Jason. Let's hear the full story first," he said, his voice unexpectedly gentle. He approached Amy, who instinctively drew back, unsure of his intentions. But then, to her surprise, he kneeled down to her level. "Hello, young lady. Could you tell me what happened?" he asked, his voice calm and reassuring. Amy took a deep breath, gathering the courage to start sharing her story again. Her voice grew stronger with each word, though tears streamed down her face. Mr. Aaron listened intently, nodding every so often. "I wanted to return this watch. Here, take it," she finished, lifting the item from the chief's desk. The chief shot her a stern look, cautioning her not to touch the evidence. Then Aaron turned to the chief. "I won't be pressing charges. Actually, I'd like to offer this young girl a temporary place to stay. She's just a child. She shouldn't be out on the streets like this," he said, surprising everyone in the room. Jason started to protest, but Mr. Aaron silenced him with a glance. Turning to Amy, he smiled gently. "What do you think, young lady? Would you like a safe place to stay for a while?" he asked. Amy, barely able to believe what she was hearing, felt a rush of relief and gratitude. "Yes, please, sir. Thank you. I've never had a home," she said quietly. "It would be a dream to have a warm place to sleep. I promise I'll be good and make you proud." A small smile tugged at her lips for the first time that day. Maybe, just maybe, things could improve. Something good had to happen, she thought, feeling a spark of hope light up inside her. Mr. Aaron gently guided her to her feet, leading her toward the station exit. As they passed Jason, Amy felt a chill go through her. He leaned in, his lips close to her ear. "You may have fooled my father, little thief, but don't think this is over. "If you come to our home, I'll make sure you regret it," he whispered, his voice cold as ice. Amy shivered, the fear tightening around her heart once more. She looked up at Mr. Aaron, who seemed unaware of his son's threat. Did I make the right choice? What's waiting for me in this new place? She wondered, her newfound hope shadowed by doubt. Minutes later, Mr. Aaron's car smoothly rolled through the grand gates of his mansion, revealing a world Amy had never dreamed of. Her eyes widened as she took in the perfectly kept gardens, the marble fountains, and the grand facade of the house. As they stepped out of the car, Amy hesitated, her hands clutching the edge of her worn dress nervously. Mr. Aaron, noticing her unease, gave her a reassuring smile. "Welcome to your new home, Amy. I hope you'll find happiness here. You might be wondering why I brought you into my life. I can tell when someone has a good heart, and I saw that goodness shining through your eyes. Life on the streets must be hard, and I believe it's our duty to help those who need it," he said, gently guiding her up the marble steps. At the top, Jason stood waiting, his expression cold and unimpressed. "I can't believe you actually brought this dirty, ragged girl into our house. Can't you see she doesn't belong here?" Jason said, his voice harsh. Amy felt his piercing gaze, swallowing the lump that formed in her throat. "Don't be so heartless, son. Everyone faces hardships at some point. We need to have faith in people's goodness." "She's just a child," Mr. Aaron replied as he led Amy through the house. "Why does he hate me so much? I haven't done anything to him. I didn't steal from him. And I'd be clean if I had a place and a good shower." Taking a bath every day would be a dream, Amy thought, fighting the urge to hide behind Mr. Aaron. Amy was astounded by the elegance that surrounded her as they entered the grand hall. Crystal chandeliers glistened from the ceiling, priceless paintings lined the walls, and the polished marble floor sparkled like glass. "Enjoy it while it lasts, street rat. Soon my father will see he made a mistake, bringing you here," Jason whispered, with contempt. The house tour continued up to the second floor, where Mr. Aaron shared the stories behind each room and its treasures. They paused by a hallway lined with family photos, and Mr. Aaron's expression softened with a mix of nostalgia and sadness. "This is my late wife, Stephanie, in the photograph here. Seeing her portrait still brings me a sense of joy," her eyes filled with kindness. "She wouldn't have thought twice about helping you. I try to live by her values, keeping her memory alive through kindness, simplicity, and helping others," he said, gesturing to a portrait of a woman with a warm smile. Amy looked at the photo, noticing the resemblance between Stephanie and Jason. "She was very beautiful, Mr. Aaron. I can tell she must have been an incredible person," Amy said softly. He nodded, a bittersweet smile on his face. "Yes, she truly was. And she had a heart as radiant as her looks," he said, his gaze distant, lost in thought. Nearby, Jason, who had been observing with rising irritation, let out a low scoff. "Dad, don't you think you're telling a little too much to a stranger?" he asked, throwing a sharp glance in Amy's direction. Disregarding his son's remark, Mr. Aaron guided Amy into a smaller, cozier room. At its center, on an ornate pedestal, stood an elegant porcelain vase, adorned with intricate gold and blue designs. "This was Stephanie's favorite vase," Mr. Aaron said, with a hint of sadness in his voice. "It was a wedding gift from my grandmother, and Stephanie adored it." Amy moved closer, captivated by the delicate beauty of the vase. "It's beautiful. It looks like it's worth a lot. But I think its real worth is in the love behind it," she murmured, resisting the temptation to touch its polished surface. Jason, his irritation mounting, stepped forward abruptly. "Sounds like the kind of talk a thief would give about the vase's price. Should I be worried you're going to take my mother's favorite piece?" he sneered, nudging Amy slightly aside. She stumbled, nearly losing her balance, her pulse quickening at the thought of falling onto the precious vase. Mr. Aaron continued to speak about the vase's history, oblivious to the rising tension between Jason and Amy. As he spoke, Jason leaned closer to Amy, his lips just inches from her ear, his tone full of venom. "Just so you know, Rat, it won't take long for my father to realize you don't belong here. Who do you think he'll side with? The scrappy orphan or his own son?" His words sent a chill down Amy's spine, fear swelling within her. She glanced over at Mr. Aaron, who remained kind and unaware of Jason's threatening words. "What do I do now?" Amy wondered, feeling cornered. "How can I possibly stay here with Jason treating me like this? Will I ever find a place to call home?" "I didn't do anything to you," she said softly, hoping to reach some kindness within him. "We could be friends, even family. I'm sure there's good in you, and you wouldn't do anything to hurt me." But Jason turned a deaf ear. "Don't act all friendly. I'm not your friend, and I don't trust you," he retorted, keeping his voice low so his father wouldn't hear. "I can't wait for the day you're gone." As night settled over the mansion, filling it with shadows and quiet, Amy lay awake in her grand new bed, unable to sleep. Her stomach growled, reminding her she hadn't eaten in what felt like ages. Mr. Aaron had shown Amy to her bathroom, but in the rush of everything, he'd forgotten to offer her food. Not that it was too surprising. He probably wasn't used to guests who went without meals. Amy, accustomed to the streets and often going hungry, tried to ignore the empty feeling gnawing at her, but it refused to go away. Finally, she worked up the courage to explore the quiet house and hopefully locate the kitchen. "Maybe I can grab something quick without bothering anyone. Mr. Aaron told me to make myself at home, but I don't want to give Jason another reason to despise me," she thought, slipping quietly out of her room. She tiptoed down the staircase, guiding herself by the faint memory of the earlier tour Mr. Aaron had given her. After a few nerve-wracking minutes, she found the kitchen. It was huge, filled with sparkling appliances and cool marble countertops. Carefully, she opened the fridge, flinching as the light poured out. The sight of the food left her speechless. "I've never seen so much food in one place. Who could ever need this much? I used to dream of having just enough to get by, let alone all this. How many days did I spend wishing for a place full of food like this?" she whispered, marveling. As she debated what to take, a sudden noise broke her thoughts. Footsteps were coming closer. Fear seized her as she looked around desperately for a hiding spot. Her gaze landed on a spacious pantry cabinet. Without a second thought, she slipped inside and quietly shut the door, her heart racing. Her pulse hammered in her ears. "Please, let it not be Jason. If he catches me, he'll probably think I'm stealing. I don't want him to yell at me or worse." She held her breath as the kitchen lights clicked on. Jason entered, and he was with a man she had never seen before, much to her horror. This stranger was tall and lean, with sharp features and piercing eyes. Jason seemed on edge, pacing as he spoke in a low, tense voice. "And we need to get rid of her. Understand? That girl doesn't belong here. I have to find a way to get her out," Amy heard Jason say, his tone urgent. The stranger simply nodded, his voice calm compared to Jason's agitation. "I understand, sir. I think I've got just the plan. Give it a day, and she'll be gone before you know it. I promise." Amy felt a chill creep over her, her heart pounding with dread. "They're talking about me," she realized, panic tightening in her chest. What are they planning? Jason and the other man continued their hushed conversation, words barely audible, but enough to send her heart racing. "Make it look like an accident. No one will suspect a thing." She'll regret ever stepping foot here. No one's going to believe her. Each sentence was like a knife twisting deeper into Amy's fear. She wanted to scream, to bolt, to do anything but stay in the cabinet, yet her body was frozen with terror. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she fought to stay quiet, her mind swirling with confusion. Why is this happening to me? I only wanted somewhere safe to belong. Is that really too much to ask? She thought, despair gripping her. Suddenly footsteps grew louder, approaching her hiding place. Amy held her breath, her whole body shaking. The doorknob turned slowly, creaking as it swung open. She found herself staring into Jason's shocked face. For a heartbeat, they just stared, her wide, terrified eyes meeting his, which quickly shifted from surprise to fury. What are you doing in here? Snooping now, are we? Guess you can't help being a sneak and a thief, he spat, lunging toward her. A rush of adrenaline took over, and Amy twisted away, bolting from the cabinet in a desperate dash for freedom. Grab her, Jason's voice thundered, filling the kitchen with an echo. Amy ran like her life depended on it, her heart pounding so fiercely it seemed it might burst. I can't let them catch me, she thought in sheer panic. If they catch me, it's all over. They'll hurt me. Her bare feet skidded on the polished floors as she sped down the mansion's long hallways. Behind her, she could hear Jason's heavy, angry footsteps and his furious shouts. The once ominous shadows of the house became her allies, shrouding her as she slipped away while he stumbled and cursed. Spotting a staircase to the second floor, Amy didn't hesitate, taking the steps 2 at a time, her breathing uneven and ragged. Where do I go? Her mind raced. I don't even know this house, and there's nowhere safe. At the top of the stairs, she found herself facing a seemingly endless corridor, the darkness stretching ahead of her. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow her every move, casting judgment on her presence. Amy could hear footsteps approaching fast, and she realized her time was running out. Racing down the hallway, she scanned for any possible escape, a window, a door, anything to get out. In her hurry, her foot caught on an intricately woven rug, and she stumbled, colliding with a side table. Her heart froze as she noticed a delicate vase, Aaron's late wife's cherished piece, beginning to wobble dangerously on its base. No, please no, Amy gasped, lunging forward to stop it. But her attempt came too late. The vase toppled, crashing to the floor in a thunderous explosion of porcelain. Following the jarring sound, there was a suffocating silence throughout the mansion. What have I done? Amy's stomach knotted in horror as she stared at the broken pieces scattered across the floor. Then, the hallway lights flickered on, flooding the scene with harsh brightness. Squinting, she looked up to see Mr. Aaron standing just a few feet away, his expression struck with disbelief. Beside him stood Jason, smirking with unsettling satisfaction, his eyes glinting as if relishing her mistake. Amy opened her mouth to explain, to beg forgiveness, but the words seemed trapped. Silent tears slipped down her cheeks as she glanced between Mr. Aaron and the shattered remains of the vase. Please, it was an accident, she finally managed, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean for this to happen. Don't be angry. Please don't punish me. Mr. Aaron stepped closer, his face twisting into an expression Amy couldn't quite read. Was he furious, disappointed, or worse? His voice was low, taut with suppressed emotion. Amy, what have you done? He shook his head, signaling them all toward the living room in a silent but firm gesture. With her legs trembling, Amy followed, sensing Jason's intense, unyielding stare on her back. The silence felt heavy, broken only by the soft rustle of their footsteps on the plush carpet. Reaching the living room, Mr. Aaron turned to face Amy, his expression a mixture of emotions she couldn't fully grasp. Amy, would you care to explain yourself? What were you doing up so late? Mr. Aaron's voice was calm, but edged with tension. Amy opened her mouth to speak, yet no words would come. Her gaze shifted from Mr. Aaron to Jason, her heart thudding so hard she thought they might all hear it. I was just hungry, so I went to the kitchen. But then I saw Jason, and I got scared. I hid in the cabinet, thinking he'd accuse me of stealing food. When he found me, I panicked and ran. That's when I slipped and accidentally knocked over the vase, she managed to stammer, her voice barely a whisper. Jason, who had been watching with a smug silence, finally let out a sneering laugh. Hungry? That's the best excuse you've got. Father, can't you see what's going on? This street girl is playing you for a fool, he sneered, his words dripping with disdain as he paced, gesturing wildly. First, she takes your watch. Now she ruins the only keepsake we had of Mother. What's next? Amy felt the tears welling up again, her frustration and fear building. She wanted to shout that it wasn't true to tell Mr. Aaron that Jason was lying, but fear froze her in place. Please, just believe me. I didn't mean any harm, she thought, looking up at Mr. Aaron. Raising a hand to quiet Jason, Mr. Aaron approached Amy, his gaze meeting hers. Amy, I understand that this is frightening, but I need the truth here. Why were you walking around the house in the middle of the night? Was it really just hunger? Why didn't you ask for something to eat before going to bed? He asked, his tone now gentler. Amy took a deep breath, summoning her courage. I swear, it was just for food. But then, I heard voices in the kitchen. It was Jason and a man I didn't recognize. They were talking about getting rid of me. Her voice trembled. She stole a glance at Jason, catching his face as it briefly paled before twisting into anger. Liar! How dare you spread such lies? He yelled, stepping toward her. Mr. Aaron moved between them, his face now stern. That's enough, Jason, he said, holding firm. Let Amy finish. He turned back to her, giving her an encouraging nod. Shaking, Amy continued, describing how she overheard the conversation and, in her panic to escape, accidentally broke the vase. As she spoke, Amy noticed Mr. Aaron's expression changing, shifting from confusion to concern. Jason, however, grew more and more agitated, constantly interjecting accusations and fierce denials. She's lying, Dad. How can you trust her over me, your own son? She's just some street kid with no education. Obviously she's lying, trying to sneak around in the middle of the night to steal from us, he insisted, his face flushed with anger. Amy felt a flicker of hope as she glimpsed doubt in Mr. Aaron's eyes. Maybe he'll finally believe me, she thought. Maybe someone will see the truth, at last. A heavy silence followed, settling over the room. Mr. Aaron looked between Amy and Jason, his face filled with conflict. Finally, he let out a deep sigh. Amy, go to your room, please. I need to speak with Jason alone and figure out what to do next, he said, his voice weary. Amy's heart sank. She wanted to argue to prove her innocence. But Mr. Aaron's tone made it clear there would be no discussion. Slowly, she rose, casting one last hopeful glance at Mr. Aaron before heading for the door. As she walked past Jason, he leaned in slightly, whispering just loud enough for her to hear. It's over for you, Rat. Better start packing. A shiver went down Amy's spine as she climbed the stairs to her room, the weight of an uncertain future pressing on her. What will happen to me now? Will I be back on the streets, or somewhere even worse? The questions echoed in her mind, filling her with dread. She entered the guest room and quietly closed the door behind her. The once welcoming space now felt more like a gilded cage. Her legs wobbled as she reached the bed, and she sank onto the soft mattress. The tears she had tried to hold back around Mr. Aaron and Jason began to flow freely. Silent sobs racked her small frame as she clutched the pillow. Why is this happening to me? All I wanted was a home, a family. Was that really too much to ask? Amy's mind replayed the night's events, the confusion and heartache swirling within her. She sat up slowly, looking around the room that, if only for a short time, had felt like a safe haven. With shaking hands, Amy began to gather her few belongings. Her old worn dress, now clean and folded, lay on a chair. A small comb Mr. Aaron had given her, saying every young lady should have one, and at the bottom of the drawer, a single coin she had earned that morning on the streets. Each item felt like a small reminder of her hopes and dreams, now dampened by disappointment. Amy carefully placed each piece into a bag she found in the closet, her tears dripping onto her cherished possessions. Maybe I should never have agreed to come here. Maybe the streets are where I truly belong, she whispered to herself, her voice thick with emotion. She felt utterly drained, her body and spirit worn down. Lying on the bed, Amy clutched her bag tightly to her chest. Her eyes burned from all the tears, and her mind spun with bleak thoughts about what lay ahead. Fear of the unknown mixed with the heavy exhaustion that pressed on her. What's going to happen to me now? Where will I go when they send me away, she thought, feeling like the weight of the world rested on her small shoulders. As her exhaustion finally took over, Amy's eyelids grew heavier. Despite herself, she began to drift off, her last conscious thought a blend of fear and reluctant acceptance. The sudden sound of the door opening jerked Amy out of her fitful sleep. She sat up abruptly, her heart pounding, her eyes wide in the room's darkness. A familiar figure stood in the hallway, backlit by the hallway light. Jason. He entered silently, closing the door behind him. Amy instinctively pressed back against the headboard, holding her bag tightly, as though it could protect her. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice shaking with fear. Jason didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked around the room, his footsteps echoing in the heavy silence. Finally, he came to a stop at the foot of the bed, the moonlight streaming in through the window, half illuminating his face. "So, you know, Rat, you really caused quite the scene tonight," he began, his voice disturbingly calm. He picked up something from the desk, rolling it between his fingers. Amy recognized it as the comb Mr. Aaron had given her. "My father's downstairs, torn up, crying over his last memory of my mother, trying to figure out if he can trust your little tale." Jason's words stung, but he continued, "But it doesn't really matter. By morning, everything will be clear." He chuckled quietly, a sound that sent chills down Amy's spine. Placing the comb back on the desk, he turned to leave. Before exiting, he glanced back, a twisted smile crossing his face. "Sleep well, Rat. You're going to need every ounce of strength you can get tomorrow." With that, he left her alone in the dark, his words echoing in her mind as she struggled to make sense of them. What did he mean? Everything will be clear. What was going to happen tomorrow, Amy wondered, as a rising fear began to take over her heart. Morning came, thick with tension throughout the mansion. Amy went downstairs for breakfast with hesitant, shuffling steps, clutching her bag tightly to her chest. The dining room, with its grand table and tall-backed chairs, felt even more daunting than the night before. Mr. Aaron was already seated at the head of the table, his face etched with fatigue and concern. Moments later, Jason entered, flashing a smile that made Amy's stomach churn. "Good morning, Father." "Good morning, Amy," he greeted, his tone oddly upbeat. Amy mumbled a reply, avoiding eye contact with both of them. As she took her seat, a question ran through her mind. Why is he in such a good mood? What's he up to? Only the quiet clinking of silverware broke the awkward silence that persisted throughout the meal. Amy barely touched her food because she was uncomfortable. Suddenly, Jason set his fork down with a sharp clatter, making Amy jump slightly. "Father, something dreadful happened early this morning," he announced, his voice weighted with mock concern. "I didn't want to ruin your breakfast before sharing this." Mr. Aaron looked up, brows furrowed. "What happened, Jason?" Jason let out a dramatic sigh before continuing. "My jewels, they're gone." Amy's heart raced as a horrifying realization crept into her mind. He wouldn't do something so heartless. He wouldn't try to pin this on me, would he? She tried to convince herself, no, Jason has a good heart. He's just complicated. Mr. Aaron looked stunned. "Gone? How is that possible? When did you realize this?" "In the early morning," Jason replied, shaking his head as though saddened. "Before I went to bed, I checked my safe, only to find it open and completely empty." He cast a pointed look at Amy, who shrank back in her chair. "Father, I hate to even suggest this, but given recent happenings, maybe it's best if we search everyone's belongings," Jason said, his tone calculated. Amy felt the color drain from her face. She knew she hadn't taken anything, but the terror of being wrongly accused made her freeze. "No, this can't be happening," she thought, panic rising. "They'll think it's me. I just know it." Mr. Aaron hesitated, but Jason left no space for objections. "All right, let's settle this now. Amy, please bring your bag," he said. With shaking hands, Amy placed her small bag on the table. Jason stepped closer, an eager gleam lighting up his eyes. "Let's see what we have here," he said, his voice filled with an unsettling curiosity as he clicked open the clasp. Amy felt her heart pounding as she watched him dig through her few, meager belongings, dreading building up with each item he moved aside. Then suddenly, he stopped. A sly, victorious smile spread across his face, and his fingers tightened around something small and hidden. "Well, well, what do we have here?" he said, his tone dripping with smug satisfaction as he lifted a small velvet pouch from her bag. Amy's eyes widened, her breath catching as she stared, unable to believe what she was seeing. "No, this can't be happening. I swear, I've never seen that before," she stammered, her voice trembling with shock and fear. But Jason ignored her, his fingers deftly loosening the pouch's drawstring. With a dramatic flourish, he turned it upside down, letting its contents cascade onto the table. A collection of gleaming jewels scattered across the surface. Diamond necklaces, sapphire-studded earrings, rings crafted in shimmering gold. Each piece caught the light, creating a dazzling display. Mr. Aaron, who had been sitting quietly, abruptly rose to his feet. His face was etched with a mixture of shock, disappointment, and anger as he stared down at the jewels. "Amy, how could you do this?" he murmured, his voice low and filled with disbelief, as if he couldn't quite grasp what he was seeing. The weight of his words struck Amy like a blow. Tears began to well up in her eyes, and she shook her head frantically, trying to process what was happening. "Please, you have to believe me. I didn't take these. I don't even know where they came from. Someone must have put them in my bag." Her voice broke with desperation, choked with sobs as she pleaded. But when she looked back at Mr. Aaron and Jason, she could see the truth. There was no hope. Jason's eyes sparkled with triumph, while Mr. Aaron's face remained clouded with disappointment. An uneasy silence settled over the room, thick and suffocating. Amy's hands clenched, and she felt the sharp sting of helplessness cutting through her. Suddenly, the sound of a chair scraping against the floor broke the silence, and Amy stood, her whole body trembling, her face wet with tears. "I didn't do this," she whispered, her voice barely audible, each word quivering with despair. Yet the coldness in Mr. Aaron's gaze and the glint of satisfaction in Jason's eyes told her that her words fell on deaf ears. The looming fear of arrest, even though she knew she was innocent, consumed her, threatening to paralyze her with panic. In a moment of sheer desperation, Amy bolted toward the front door, her heart racing wildly. "I can't stay here. They won't believe me. No matter what I say, they might even call the police on me again. And this time, no one will take my side." Her thoughts spiraled as she hurried down the steps and away from the mansion. Moments later, Amy was sprinting across the garden, the sound of Mr. Aaron's distant shouts barely reaching her. She broke through the hedges and found herself back on the familiar city streets, the sudden freedom crashing over her like a tidal wave. The streets, once a reminder of her hardships, now felt like a haven in comparison to the oppressive accusation she had just endured. She continued running, her legs carrying her farther and farther away from the mansion and the fragile hope of a home that had been snatched away so cruelly. Where do I go now, she thought, the reality of her loneliness sinking in as the darkening sky mirrored her despair, casting shadows over her uncertain path forward. Heavy raindrops fell steadily, soaking Amy within minutes. She wandered through the empty streets, her bare feet splashing in icy puddles that had formed on the cold, wet pavement. The chill seeped into her skin, making her shiver uncontrollably. Rain mixed with the tears on her cheeks, blurring her vision, but she kept walking, her thoughts tangled with sorrow and desperation. Reality weighed heavily on her heart. Why did this have to happen? I had a place, a roof over my head, even if just for a short time. Now I'm back here, alone and starving, she thought, hugging herself tightly to fend off the biting cold. The rain didn't let up, falling harder as if to drive away any remaining fragments of hope she had left. Each day since she had left the mansion had felt like a battle against the world itself, with every step harder than the last. Amy had returned to her old habits, scavenging on the streets, but something inside her felt broken. The brief warmth and security she had experienced at the mansion only made her current reality seem more brutal, more merciless. She spent her nights huddled in shadowy alleyways, constantly on edge, jumping at every sound. She feared she would be discovered, that someone might recognize her, and that the police would come for her if word had spread that she was a thief. And hunger gnawed at her every moment. A sharp, constant ache that only reminded her of her helplessness. Each day, Amy sifted through garbage bins, finding bits of stale food, crumbs, anything to keep her going. Each piece of food, however small, felt like a victory in her ongoing struggle to survive. Will I ever find a real home again? Or is this all I'm meant for? Forever lurking in the shadows, alone, rejected by the world. She shook her head, forcing herself to hold on to a sliver of hope. No, I can't think like that. There's still good in the world. Good always wins. One day I'll have a place to call home, real food to eat and a warm place to rest. But the days dragged on, and her strength continued to wane. Weakened, she stumbled along the sidewalk, her legs heavy, her steps slow. Suddenly, a sharp cry split the air, snapping Amy out of her despair. "Help! Someone help me!" It was a man's voice, filled with panic, and something about it sounded eerily familiar. Without hesitating, Amy ran toward the cry for help, her survival instincts pushed aside as her sense of duty kicked in. Rounding the corner, she froze, her eyes widening at the scene before her. There, pressed against a wall by two menacing figures, was Jason. He looked terrified, his face twisted with fear, a far cry from the confident, arrogant expression she'd known at the mansion. Her heart pounded as she took a step forward. "Leave him alone! "Don't hurt him! Get off him!" she shouted, her voice high but determined. Her interruption caused the men to look away momentarily. Amy seized the moment, throwing herself at one of them with all her strength, her frail body acting on pure adrenaline. The man stumbled, giving Jason the brief moment he needed to step away from the wall. But the second attacker quickly recovered from his surprise, grabbing Amy by the arm and twisting it sharply, leaving a deep, red mark on her slender arm. Amy let out a piercing scream, the pain overwhelming, yet she fought on. She kicked and squirmed, her small frame thrashing with every ounce of strength she could muster, refusing to give in. "Run, Jason, run! I'll hold them off!" she yelled, her voice urgent, though she knew she couldn't keep the men away for long. Jason stood frozen, his face pale, watching the chaos unfold. He could only stare, wide-eyed, tears beginning to trail down his cheeks as he realized the danger Amy was putting herself in for his sake. The same girl he had misjudged and hurt was now risking everything to protect him. The sight of her, so small and defenseless yet standing against these much larger men, awakened something inside him. "Let her go," he shouted with sudden determination. "Take whatever you want from me. Just leave us alone. She's just a child." Desperation pushing him forward, Jason moved to help Amy, but one of the men struck him hard, knocking him to the ground. Helpless, he watched as the other man continued to harm Amy. Then, the distant wail of sirens filled the air, cutting through the tension. The men glanced at each other, their faces showing doubt. They hesitated, realizing their time was running out. With one final push, they shoved Amy roughly, causing her to collapse next to Jason before turning and disappearing down the street. Amy groaned, her body aching and battered from the confrontation. Jason, still crying, crawled over to her, his face etched with worry. "Amy, are you okay?" "Where does it hurt?" he asked, his voice breaking as he looked her over, fear in his eyes. Amy managed to sit up, gasping through the pain. "I think I'm all right," she murmured, glancing at Jason with a mixture of confusion and concern. Her bruises and the exhaustion on her face made Jason's guilt rise within him, shame filling his heart. Without hesitation, he gathered her carefully into his arms. "Let's get you taken care of. No one will hurt you now," he murmured, his voice soft and protective. Too weak to protest, Amy allowed Jason to support her. Slowly, they made their way through the dimly lit streets, with Jason holding her close to steady her every step. "Why are you helping me?" Amy whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Jason swallowed, the weight of his past actions heavy on him. "Because I was wrong, Amy. I was so wrong, blind and cruel." When they reached the mansion, Jason carried her straight to his room, ignoring the surprised looks of the servants who watched them pass. Gently, he helped her settle onto his bed and then began cleaning and bandaging her injuries with hands that had once been dismissive, now moving with a tenderness that felt unfamiliar. A thick silence filled the space, dense with unspoken words, with regret and a heavy sense. Amy watched Jason closely, still struggling to grasp the sudden transformation in his demeanor. She had never before seen such a raw vulnerability in his once proud and hardened expression. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice low and hesitant. "Why did you do that, Amy? After everything I put you through, why would you help me?" His question hung in the air, cracking open a dam of emotions he had been holding back. Tears began to well up, trailing down his cheeks as he struggled to speak, his voice thick with regret. "Amy, I don't even know where to start. What you did today, I've never seen such courage or such kindness in my life. You risked everything to save me, even after all the pain I caused you." Amy said, "I was so blind, blinded with arrogance and blinded by my own prejudice. He paused, swallowing hard, as if grappling with words too painful to say. I looked at you and saw only what I wanted to see. Judged you by your appearance, by the kindness in you that I thought was nothing but a facade. I dismissed you because of your poverty and simplicity, never once caring to understand the real person you are. His gaze fell to the ground as he continued. Earlier today, I was on my way to an important meeting, trying to show my father I was capable. I thought I could take a shortcut through the city and avoid the traffic, but I ended up in a place I didn't recognize, lost in unfamiliar streets. And that's when those men surrounded me. His hands shook slightly as he recounted the memory. I was terrified, Amy. And then, out of nowhere, you appeared. You risked your own safety, stepping into harm's way to save me, even after everything I'd done to you. Jason's words flowed out like a torrent, his voice breaking with every sentence. Watching you fight for me, I finally saw the truth, that I had been so wrong. For so long, I measured people by their wealth, never by who they truly were. And you, Amy, you may not have material riches, but you have everything that truly matters. You have kindness, compassion, and a heart that's pure. Today, you showed me what it means to be truly rich, rich in spirit and goodness. I was so unfair to you, so cruel. Jason's face twisted in sorrow, and he let the tears fall freely. I accused you of things you didn't do that made your life miserable. Yet when I needed someone most, you were there. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Amy. He took a deep, shuddering breath, meeting her gaze with sincerity. But you changed my life today. You showed me a kind of strength I never knew existed, a strength that doesn't come from power or money, but from the heart. I swear to you, from this day forward, I'll be a better person. Reaching for her hand, his voice softened. I want to spend the rest of my life trying to make things right, to repay the kindness you showed me. My home is your home now. You can stay here as long as you need. Pausing to gather himself, he added, I'll tell my father about the jewels, explain everything. You'll have a safe place here and a family who cares for you. It's the least I can do, after what you've done for me. Amy gazed at Jason, her expression a mix of astonishment and deep emotion. His words had pierced her heart in a way she could never have foreseen. She found herself momentarily at a loss for words, simply absorbing the weight of everything he had just said. Then, her voice trembling, she managed to respond, Jason, I'm not even sure what to say. What you're offering me is so much more than I ever dared to wish for. But are you truly certain, especially after everything that's happened between us? She hesitated, her eyes filling with tears that she tried to hold back, uncertain of what this would mean for her future. Jason gently clasped her hands in his gaze steady and full of a sincerity that took her by surprise. Amy, he began, his voice calm and unwavering, I've never felt so sure about anything in my life. You've shown me a kindness and courage that I didn't even know existed. Through everything, you've demonstrated the kind of person I can only hope to become. He paused, a soft smile crossing his face, a warmth she'd never seen before. And I think my father would be more than happy to welcome someone with a heart as big as yours into our family. Just then, as if summoned by the power of Jason's words, Mr. Aaron entered the room. He took in the scene before him, the sight of Amy lying in bed, visibly hurt, with Jason sitting beside her, holding her hands, both of them tearful. His expression shifted, moving from worry to an unsettled confusion. He cleared his throat and asked, his voice tinged with curiosity and a hint of concern, "What exactly is going on here?" Slowly, Jason stood up, turning to face his father with a new resolve. "Father, there's something I need to tell you, and a great deal I need to make right. Amy didn't steal the jewels. I was the one who put them in her bag. I lied, manipulated, and caused so much pain. But today, Amy risked everything to save my life. Even after everything I put her through, she didn't hesitate. She showed me what truly matters in life." Jason's voice was firm, though tears still glistened in his eyes, and Mr. Aaron listened intently, his face reflecting a storm of emotions as he absorbed his son's confession. When Jason had finished, Mr. Aaron walked over to Amy, lowering himself so he could look her in the eyes. "Amy," he said, his tone softening, "it appears I owe you a great apology, and perhaps an even greater thank you, for saving my son, not only in body, but also in spirit. If you're willing to forgive us, I would be honored if you'd consider staying with us," he added gently, offering her a kind smile, his eyes showing a depth of newfound understanding. After a moment, he continued, "But tell me, Amy, you tried to return my watch that day at the police station, and now you've saved my son. What is it that you want in return?" His voice was genuine, curious to hear what she might say. Amy looked from Mr. Aaron to Jason, her heart swelling with emotion. After enduring so much loneliness, after years of hardship and sorrow, she had finally found a place that felt like home. A family that truly cared for her. With her voice choked with emotion, she responded, "All I've ever wanted is a family, a home and people to love who would love me in return. That's all I've ever wanted." As Amy shared her simple, heartfelt request, both Jason and Mr. Aaron couldn't hold back their emotions. The innocence and purity of her words moved them, causing tears to well up in their eyes. Mr. Aaron gently took her hand, saying, "You will have everything you asked for, my dear. This is your home now, not as a guest, but as a part of our family." With a warm smile, he continued, "Thank you for bringing your beautiful heart into our lives and teaching us what truly matters, my daughter." His words, filled with love and gratitude, resonated deeply. Father and son exchanged glances, both smiling through their tears, and Amy felt something profound shift inside her. At that moment, she knew her life had changed forever. Not only had she found a place to belong, but she had also touched and transformed the hearts of those around her. 6 months had passed since that life-altering day, the day when Amy saved Jason and found the family she had always dreamed of. The Aaron mansion, once grand but cold, had become a place of warmth and laughter, reflecting the changes that had taken root within its walls. Amy, still just 10 years old, flourished under the tender care and support of her new family. Her smile, once rare and timid, now illuminated the entire mansion. She had embraced her new school life with enthusiasm, her natural intelligence finally having a chance to shine. Her kindness and warmth made her a favorite among classmates and teachers alike. Jason, meanwhile, honored his promise to change. He had transformed into a caring older brother, always by Amy's side, whether she needed help with her homework or just a listening ear. His protective instincts grew stronger, and the staff in the mansion noticed a new, softer side to him, a side filled with compassion and maturity. Mr. Aaron, deeply inspired by Amy's gentle spirit and the positive changes in Jason, decided to make a broader impact. He founded a charitable organization dedicated to helping homeless children, providing them with shelter, education, and opportunities to thrive. Amy served as his honorary advisor, her compassion and insights shaping the foundation's mission. The evenings at the Aaron mansion became moments of joy and togetherness. Family dinners were filled with laughter, lively stories, and an outpouring of love. Amy, Jason, and Mr. Aaron celebrated each other's successes and offered comfort during challenges. Watching Mr. Aaron and Jason laugh together, Amy couldn't help but smile, realizing that her journey from a lonely street girl to a cherished family member was a testament to the power of kindness, compassion, and the capacity for transformation in every heart. What was once a dark and uncertain future now shone with the promise of endless possibilities. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing you inspiring stories every day. Don't miss the next heartfelt story that's about to appear on your screen. We're so grateful to have you here with us. Now, feel free to click the links appearing on your screen. We have a special selection for you, full of heartwarming tales and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.